She hadn't seen him in over 20 years. But when Jasmine Crockett walked into her old high school and saw the janitor still mopping floors at 82, what she did next will stay with you long after the video ends. Jasmine Crockett wasn't back in Texarkana to make a statement. She was home to rest. A 3-day weekend, tucked between legislative chaos and an overflowing inbox, was all she had, and all she wanted. No press, no ribbon cutting, no public appearances. Just her mother's cooking, a quiet backyard, and a break from shaking hands with people who only saw her as a title. But that Saturday afternoon, something tugged at her. She had taken her mom's old Buick down College Drive just to get out of the house. The kind of drive where you let your thoughts go wherever they want. She passed her old corner store, now boarded up, the barber shop with the spinning pole still in the window, and then Booker T. Washington High. She almost kept going, but her foot slowed on the pedal. There was something about the building's chipped bricks, the sun-faded sign over the entrance. 15 years since she'd last walked through those doors. She made a right into the parking lot. It was mostly empty, save for a few scattered teacher cars. "I'll just take a peek," she mumbled to herself, grabbing her tote bag and locking the door behind her. Inside, the air was heavy with floor polish and memories. The security guard glanced up but did a double take when he recognized her. "Crockett?" he asked, confused. "Just visiting," she smiled. "Promise I won't cause trouble." He waved her through. The hallways were smaller than she remembered. The trophies in the glass case hadn't been updated in years. Room 102, where she once froze during a debate. The science lab, where she blew up a beaker. She chuckled under her breath, but then she heard it. The slow, rhythmic squeak of a mop being dragged across old tile. She turned the corner toward the east wing, and there he was. Mr. Henderson. Same slumped shoulders, same blue work shirt with the embroidered name patch. He moved slower now. The mop handle wobbled in his grip, but the way he moved, steady, consistent, was the same as it had always been. She stopped walking. The last time she saw him, she was 17, running late, trying to finish a paper, and surviving on school cafeteria food. She remembered that day clearly. She hadn't eaten that morning, forgot her lunch card, and had no cash. Mr. Henderson saw her sitting alone at the lunch table with nothing but a bottle of water. He handed her a sandwich from his own lunch. Didn't say a word. Now, over 2 decades later, he was still here, still working. Her voice came out before she could stop it. "Mr. Henderson?" He looked up, blinked, didn't react. "It's Jasmine Crockett, class of '04. He squinted, tilted his head, then slowly a smile. "Little firecracker. Used to wear them red glasses." She laughed. "Still got 'em." "Well, I'll be damned," he said, wiping his hands on a rag he pulled from his back pocket. "What brings you back?" "I came home for the weekend. Just needed a break." "And you decided to spend it here?" He chuckled, leaning on the mop. "Guess I missed the old place." He looked around like he was seeing it for the first time. "Ain't much changed." She took a step closer. "You still working full-time?" "Yep. Can't retire yet. Not with these bills." "But you're... how old now?" 82 next March. Jasmine's stomach dropped. She tried to keep her face from showing too much. "You should be resting. You earned that." "Earned maybe. Afford? That's another thing." He said it casually, like he was talking about the weather. Jasmine didn't speak for a few seconds, just watched the way he leaned on that mop like it was the only thing holding him up. But something about the way he said it, so calm, so final, stuck with her like a splinter under skin. Jasmine didn't move. She just stood there, watching Mr. Henderson shift his weight from one leg to the other, his left knee bending a little slower than the right. Years ago, she remembered how he used to whistle while he cleaned. Gospel tunes, mostly. Now, there was no sound, just the squeak of the mop bucket and the silence between them. "You're really still here," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Yeah," he replied with a little shrug. "Some of us don't move on. Somebody's got to keep these halls from falling apart." He picked the mop back up and started moving it across the same patch of tile. She stepped forward and leaned against the wall, watching him. "You remember me?" she asked. He glanced at her. "Course I do. You used to bring your books in that little rolling suitcase. Thought you were grown." She smiled. "It was either that or a broken back. I had 6 AP classes." He chuckled. "I remember, always had your head down in a book." She paused. "You ever think about retiring?" "Every week." he said with a small grin. But life don't care much about thoughts. You retire when you can, not when you want. Is it just you? She asked. Still living on Pine Street? Moved 2 years ago. Rent got too high. I'm down by Willow and 7th now. Still walk to work. Jasmine's eyebrows rose. That's nearly 2 miles. Don't feel it if you don't think about it. She swallowed the lump in her throat and looked down at his shoes, worn black Skechers with the soles nearly flat. She remembered seeing him mop during lunch hour when she was a student. It used to bother her how no one ever really talked to him, just nodded, moved on, barely saw him. But she always did. I remember the turkey sandwich, she said softly. He stopped mopping. You sat with me that day, she continued. I didn't have anything to eat. You didn't ask questions, just gave me half of what you had. He looked over at her, his expression unreadable. That was nothing. It was everything, she said. I still think about that. Mr. Henderson leaned on the mop and nodded once. A lot of kids went through here hungry. Most didn't say it out loud. You weren't the first. Won't be the last. But I remember you being kind when no one else noticed. You didn't treat it like charity. You just treated me like a person. He sighed and took a seat on the janitor's bench by the lockers, motioning for her to sit next to him. You ever think about how fast this place empties out? He asked. Kids come and go, staff rotates, but I stayed. Guess I got used to being invisible. You were never invisible to me, Jasmine said. They sat for a while. She asked about the changes in the school, the new principal, the dropout rate, the cafeteria food. He answered with stories laced in dry humor and honesty. But the more he spoke, the more it hit her. This man, this quiet, dependable man, had given years of his life to a place that barely kept track of him. No spotlight, no plaques, no retirement party on the horizon. She noticed the way he shifted uncomfortably when he sat too long, rubbing his lower back. You ever get help? She asked. From the district or anything? He shook his head. I asked once. They told me they'd look into it. That was 4 years ago. She didn't respond. Not yet. But the thought wouldn't leave her. She looked down at her hands. They held power now. She wrote laws, sat on committees, helped shape policy. And here was a man who helped shape her. Quietly, gently. And he was still pushing a mop like nothing ever changed. But the truth was starting to itch under her skin, because maybe something needed to change. The next morning, Jasmine returned to the school. She wasn't sure why she came back so early. Something pulled her out of bed before the sun even cleared the horizon. She grabbed coffee from an old gas station on 12th Street and drove to Booker T. Washington High before the building even opened to students. The side door was propped open with a rock, same as it had been years ago. She stepped through the hallways quietly, this time with purpose. Her heels clicked softly against the tile. She wasn't a student anymore. But something about being here again, in this way, made her feel like that 17-year-old with the heavy backpack and the lunch ticket she couldn't afford to replace. Mr. Henderson was already working, just like he had been the day before. He was polishing the windows in the front office. You're back, he said without turning. You always show up this early? She asked, walking toward him. Every day. Been doing it since '86. Place gets too loud after 8. She leaned against the wall. Mind if I keep you company? He stopped wiping the window and looked at her. You still a talker? I'm a congresswoman. It's part of the job. That made him laugh, and for a second his shoulders relaxed. She asked him to take a break. He hesitated, then motioned toward the same bench they sat on the day before. They walked back down the hallway together. He moved a little slower this time, like each step took planning. Once they sat, Jasmine didn't hesitate. I've been thinking about that sandwich for over 20 years. He looked at her. I don't think you knew what you were doing that day. I was hungry, yeah. But more than that, I felt seen. I felt like someone actually cared. Mr. Henderson rested his hands on his knees. It was just a sandwich. Not to me, she replied. I had just found out we were losing the house. My mom was barely getting by. I was ashamed to ask for help. But then you sat across from me, pulled out your lunch, and gave me half without saying anything. You even gave me your oatmeal cookie. I don't even like oatmeal cookies, he muttered, but there was a smile in his voice. You gave it to me anyway. He nodded, his expression softening. You reminded me of my niece. She was bright like you. Always had a stack of books and too much going on in her head. What happened to her? She died young. Lupus. She was 16. The hallway grew quiet. Jasmine reached out and placed a hand over his. I'm sorry. He didn't pull away, just looked down, thumb brushing over his work-worn knuckles. She wanted to be a lawyer, he said. Said she'd come back and buy me a house when she made it big. Jasmine swallowed hard. She would have been proud of you. He glanced at her sideways. You ever wonder how many kids pass through this place without someone in their corner? Every day, she said. That's why I ran. You ever tell them that? Sometimes I do. Most of the time, they don't believe me. Well, he said, they should. They sat like that for a while, two people tied together by a hallway, a sandwich, and a silent promise made years ago. Jasmine looked at his shoes again. The soles were worse than she thought. The laces frayed, one eyelet bent inward. What about your knees? She asked. Arthritis, he said with a shrug. Ain't got the money to fix it. Long as I can stand, I work. That's not right. It's life. No, she said, firmer this time. It's a broken system. He didn't argue, just looked ahead at the faded class photo of the 92 seniors hanging across from them. You know I make laws now, she said after a moment. I know. You think people like me forget where we come from? Some do. She didn't take offense. Then let me prove you wrong. But something shifted in her voice because she wasn't offering him help out of pity. She was offering it out of memory, out of respect, out of something bigger. Jasmine didn't say goodbye when she left the school that afternoon. She said, I'll see you tomorrow. Mr. Henderson gave her a small wave like it was nothing unusual, but her mind was already working overtime. She sat in her car for a few minutes, watching him through the windshield. He slipped his mop back into the storage closet, turned off the hall lights, and grabbed a small plastic grocery bag from under the desk. It wasn't a lunchbox. It was a grocery bag. Transparent enough to see the sandwich inside, a half-drunk bottle of water, and a roll of mints. That's all he had. Jasmine started her engine and slowly pulled out of the lot. But she didn't go home. She followed him. Not close enough for him to notice. Just enough to see the route he took. Down Sycamore Street, then onto Willow Avenue. He stopped twice to rest. Once on the bus bench outside the old laundromat, and once by the worn-out fence near the shuttered gas station. No bus ever came. There were no taxis, just Mr. Henderson and his feet, dragging a body that had seen far too many years of work and not nearly enough of rest. It was quiet until she saw it. A single-level apartment complex near 7th Street, the kind built in the 70s and never remodeled. He walked around the side, used a key on a metal screen door, and disappeared inside. She sat there in her car for another 5 minutes, trying to make sense of it all. This man who cleaned up after thousands of students, who gave her food when she had none, who never once called attention to himself, was living alone in a barely standing apartment and walking 2 miles each way just to clean bathrooms and wipe down lunch tables. It pissed her off more than she expected. She didn't cry. Not then. Not yet. Anger showed up first. Anger at the system, at the school district, at every grown adult who had seen him work for decades and never thought to ask if he was okay. She went back to her mom's place and sat at the kitchen table. You look like something's eating at you, her mother said, placing a plate of greens and cornbread in front of her. It is, Jasmine replied, pushing the food around. You remember Mr. Henderson? Her mother looked up. From your high school? He's still there. Her mom froze. You're joking. I wish I was. I thought he retired years ago. No, he didn't. Because he couldn't. Her mother shook her head slowly. Lord have mercy. Jasmine looked at the walls of her childhood home. Every crack in the paint, every faded family photo. It all reminded her of how far she had come and how many people were left behind. He walks to work, Ma, in those same busted shoes. Her mother didn't speak, just listened. He gave me a sandwich when I was hungry. Do you remember that day? I do, her mom said. I was at work. Couldn't get off to bring you anything. You called me crying. Said he sat down and ate lunch with you. Jasmine nodded. He saved me from a really dark moment. I just didn't realize it back then. So what are you going to do? That was the moment it became real. Jasmine didn't need to say it out loud, but she did anyway. I'm going to make sure he never has to mop another floor again. Her mom reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Then you do it, baby, and don't you tell a soul until it's done. Jasmine stayed up most of the night sketching out a plan. Her phone buzzed as she sent quiet texts to people she trusted, former classmates, a mechanic she used to date back in junior year, a school administrator still working at the district office. She didn't want news coverage. No headlines, no staged photos, just one good man and one good deed. But pulling it off quietly, that was going to take every ounce of care she had left. By Sunday morning, Jasmine had already made 15 calls, the kind that didn't go through agents or assistants, just real people, old friends, names stored in her phone under nicknames like Tasha Band, Corey Hoops, and Big Nate from Chem. Some hadn't heard from her in years. Some answered on the first ring. Wait, Jasmine? Crockett? Congresswoman? Just Jasmine today. She told each of them the same thing. I need your help. It's not political. It's personal. Nobody asked for more than a sentence before saying yes. The goal was simple. Surprise Mr. Henderson with something he'd never buy for himself, but desperately needed. A car. Not just any car. Something solid. Dependable. Something that could carry him to church, to the grocery store, and to the occasional barbecue without breaking down or needing his knees to carry him home. That's where Mike came in. The old mechanic she used to flirt with behind the gym in high school was still working out of a garage on Laurel Street. Mike picked up the call with a raspy voice and a bad attitude, until he heard what she was trying to do. You want me to find a car for Mr. H? Something reliable, clean, no rust, automatic transmission. He paused. Red, Jasmine added. Has to be red. He used to tell us red cars make you look younger. Mike whistled. Give me a day. I'll find you something good. By midday, Mike had a lead. A used Jeep SUV, cherry red, low mileage, clean interior. It was sitting on the back lot of a dealership in Texarkana that usually sold to locals with decent credit. The owner had heard about Mr. Henderson, said he'd knock a few thousand off the price. Jasmine wired the money that afternoon. Next came the logistics. She needed Mr. Henderson outside near the school parking lot around 9:00 a.m. Monday morning. That part was trickier. She called Principal Wyatt, a no-nonsense woman who used to coach track and still carried a whistle around her neck. Jasmine laid it all out, start to finish. There was a pause on the line before Wyatt said, I'll take care of it. Tell him the flagpole light's out. I'll make sure he's where you need him. Thank you, Jasmine whispered. We owe him more than we could ever repay. She hung up and let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Back at her mom's house, she spent the evening cleaning the car with Mike, who brought over detailing supplies and a portable vacuum. Jasmine scrubbed the dashboard with a rag while Mike hosed down the tires. You sure you don't want a photographer or something? Mike asked. Nope. Not even a little news coverage? No, this isn't for anyone but him. Mike leaned back, arms crossed, inspecting their work. You changed, Crockett. Jasmine glanced over. In some ways. Still bossy. Still helpful. They laughed, and for a moment, it felt like high school again. Except now, they were fixing up a car for someone who had quietly shaped their lives without ever asking for credit. Later that night, Jasmine sat in her childhood bedroom, staring at the red Jeep parked on the curb outside. Her hands were blistered. Her back ached from bending. But her heart felt full. This wasn't charity. It was justice. She thought about the hours Mr. Henderson had spent wiping gum off floors, scraping graffiti off lockers, unclogging toilets in the boys' bathroom after homecoming. No one ever said thank you. No one ever asked what he needed. But tomorrow she would, and she'd bring the answer with her. But something in her chest whispered that the surprise might mean even more to her than to him. Monday morning arrived without ceremony. No camera crews, no press releases, just the thrum of cicadas in the air and a hint of sun cutting through the clouds over Booker T. Washington High. Jasmine parked the red Jeep in front of the school just before 8:30. She took one last look at it before stepping out. Clean tires, fresh wax, a big red ribbon on the hood, not the kind you buy at a car dealership, but one tied by her own hands with fabric from her mom's sewing basket. The lot was quiet. Inside, Mr. Henderson was already halfway through wiping down the entryway when Principal Wyatt approached. "Mr. H, I think the flagpole light's out again," she said casually. "Could you check it?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "Didn't we just fix that last month?" "Probably just a wire loose," she said, shrugging. He sighed, then leaned his mop against the wall and picked up his cap from the bench. As he pushed open the side door, the sun hit him square in the face. He squinted and froze. Jasmine stood there beside the Jeep. Her hands were behind her back. There was no crowd, no balloons, just her and the car. "What's this?" he asked slowly. She walked forward, holding out a small black key fob. "It's yours." He blinked. "What do you mean it's mine?" "I mean, this car, it's yours. No lease, no payments, no tricks." He didn't move, just stared at the Jeep, then at her, then back again. He looked for a catch, a punchline, some explanation that made sense. Jasmine, what is this?" She stepped closer, speaking low and calm. "You gave me what you had when I had nothing. This is me giving back, Mr. Henderson. No press, no charity, just thanks." He looked down at the keys, his hands trembling slightly. "I don't need a car," he whispered. "I know, but you deserve one." His breath caught. The silence between them stretched long and thick. Jasmine held the keys out again. "You don't have to say anything. Just take them." He reached out slowly, his fingers wrapped around the fob like he wasn't sure it was real. Then he looked at the car, really looked at it. The red paint gleamed in the morning light. It wasn't new, but it was spotless. It stood like a quiet monument to all the years he gave without asking for recognition. "I don't know what to say," he murmured. "You don't have to." He stepped closer to the Jeep, ran his hand across the hood, smiled to himself, then wiped his eyes with the edge of his sleeve. "I ain't had a car in over 10 years, he said, almost laughing through his tears. "Last one broke down outside of town. Had to sell it for parts." "You won't have to walk to work anymore," she said, "or to the store, or anywhere." He turned to her. "Why now?" "Because someone should have done it long before me, and because I can." They stood there for another moment, the two of them side by side, staring at the vehicle like it was a living thing. Then Mr. Henderson let out a breath and looked up at the sky. "She would have loved this." "Your niece?" Jasmine asked gently. He nodded. "She always said red was my color." He reached for the driver's door and opened it slowly, like it might vanish if he moved too fast. He sat down behind the wheel, hands resting on it like a man who'd just returned from a long war. The principal watched from the doorway. So did two cafeteria workers who'd wandered out after hearing something was up. No one said anything. They didn't need to. The engine turned over smooth as silk when he pressed the button. He didn't drive it, not yet. Just sat there, eyes closed, breathing in the scent of something that didn't smell like bleach or floor cleaner. Freedom. "Thank you," he said finally. His voice cracked in the middle of the word. Jasmine stepped back. "You gave me a sandwich. I gave you a Jeep. I think we're even." He laughed, shaking his head. "Not even close." But it wasn't about getting even. It was about honoring a promise that had never been spoken out loud. Later that afternoon, after the school day had settled and most students had gone home, Mr. Henderson found Jasmine still hanging around near the front office. She was seated on the same bench they'd used the day before, sipping coffee from a styrofoam cup, legs crossed, eyes watching the cars roll past on Willow Avenue. He approached slowly, his gait more relaxed now, lighter somehow. Maybe it was the Jeep. Maybe it was something deeper. He sat beside her without saying anything at first. "I took it for a little ride," he said after a while. "Just around the block." She smiled. "How'd it feel?" "Like I was 40 again. Didn't realize how much I missed that wheel in my hands." They sat in comfortable silence. Then he said something she didn't expect. I almost quit this place back in 97. She turned to him. "Why didn't you?" He looked down at his fingers, twisting the worn fabric of his work pants. "Because of you." Jasmine blinked. "Me?" "You don't remember," he said, almost smiling. "But that same week, your dad had just passed. You came in early one morning, sat right where you're sitting now, quiet, didn't say a word." She felt her throat tighten. You looked like the whole world had folded on top of you, he continued, and I didn't know what to say. So I gave you a cinnamon roll from the vending machine, just set it down next to you and walked away. She stared at him, trying to remember. A flicker of it came back, the smell of cinnamon, her swollen eyes, that horrible fog of grief. You stayed because of that? I stayed because I realized someone needed to be here, for the kids who didn't have anyone. He turned to face her. Not every student gets a mom waiting at home, or a teacher who notices when something's wrong, but a janitor sees everything, who's alone at lunch, who comes in with the same shirt every day, who cries in the bathroom stall between third and fourth period. She didn't speak, just listened. I figured if I couldn't save the world, I could at least keep these halls clean enough that kids like you had a place to breathe. A lump formed in her throat, not the kind you swallow away, the kind that stays. I thought about you every time I voted on education bills, she whispered. I didn't even realize it until now. He smiled. Then we both did our part. They sat that way for a while. 2 people, 1 bench, years of quiet kindness folding back into the present. Jasmine broke the silence. You planning to keep working? He gave a dry chuckle. Not if I can help it. I might come in once a week to check on things. But truth is, I think I'm done. Good. But I'll miss it, he said, softer now. Not the mopping, not the sore knees, but the faces, the noise, the chance to be useful. She reached over and squeezed his arm. You've already done more than enough. He looked at her for a moment, and there was pride in his eyes, the kind that didn't need words. You gave me more than a car today, he said. I know. You reminded me I was seen. Her eyes welled up, and she blinked hard to hold them back. You always were. The sun started dipping behind the flagpole as they stood up. He walked her out to her car, this time side by side, not one ahead of the other. As she opened the driver's door, she turned to him one last time. If you ever need anything, you call me. He nodded. I will, but I think I'm good now. She got in, started the engine, and looked in the mirror, just in time to see him walking slowly toward the red Jeep. He ran a hand along the side again like it was still sinking in. Jasmine pulled out of the lot and let the moment settle. It wasn't loud. It wasn't showy. It was just right. Some people give the world speeches. Some give laws. Mr. Henderson gave sandwiches. And sometimes, kindness like that finds its way back, years later, with keys in hand and love wrapped in red ribbon. Because the quiet ones aren't forgotten. Not really. Not by the ones who are watching. If this story moved you even a little, do something kind today for someone who doesn't expect it. It doesn't have to be big. Just real. And if you want to hear more true, human stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with someone who still believes in decency.